What's up, guys? Joe Hopkins here. I'm asking today the question we're exploring: why buy a budget guitar? You know, one of these cheapos. Can't hold a guitar without fiddling with it. Yeah, you got to fiddle with your guitar. You got to play with yourself. Anyway, why buy a budget guitar? Why not save your money and get like a big name brand, get a Gibson or a Fender or something really nice? And you know, I like Gibson, I like Fender, I like this stuff, and some of the name brands, they make really good guitars, right? There's some good ones out there, some good expensive guitars, but why buy a budget guitar if they got nice stuff like that out there? And there are a couple of reasons. First of all, maybe you're just getting into it. You're a beginner. You just want something to try out, right? Nobody wants to spend over $1,000 on something that they don't know if it'll take. They don't know if they'll like it. If you're like that and you're a beginner, it's a good idea to get an inexpensive guitar. This Firefly was 200 bucks, right? 200 bucks isn't a lot to spend to find out if you're gonna like playing the guitar. So you want to go cheap. Maybe later you'll get something really nice if it takes, if you dig it. But that's the question. Are you gonna dig it? Are you gonna enjoy playing the guitar? Is it something you're going to want to do? And 200 bucks is a pretty low cost of entry, and there are lots of good $200 guitars out there. This Firefly was 200 bucks, and I love it. It's a good guitar. Another reason you might want to buy a budget guitar, even if you're let's say a more advanced musician, and maybe you already even have a nice guitar, it's a good idea to buy a budget guitar along with it, because sometimes you don't want to drag your nice guitar out. A lot of us have our nice guitars in cases and they're set aside, and the cheap one you can just kind of set up on a stand, maybe even in a different room. Some people, they don't have their regular guitar and amp, or if you play acoustic, they don't have their regular guitar setting out in the living room. They have it in a separate room. And it's nice to have a guitar just setting out in the living room where it's easy to grab and play around with. Having a second guitar is good for that. So maybe you have a really nice guitar, but it's good to have a budget guitar for your second acts. And it doesn't hurt to have a second guitar, like a $200 guitar and a cheap little pawn shop amp or some practice amp or something. It can be a good idea to have those that, you know, you could just have it setting out in the living room to fiddle with. It's there. It's convenient. Maybe you want a budget guitar because you play gigs and maybe you travel around a bit. And, you know, a good budget guitar. You don't want something that's going to go out of tune and not hold up. But maybe you don't want to take your really nice guitar out on the road. Maybe you don't want to take it to gigs. Maybe you don't want to risk it getting stolen or beating it up. Because we all know, you know, those of us who've gigged, we know that your gig instruments, they get beat up. Seriously, they get dinged, dented, beat up, wore out. When you're playing gigs, you play a lot. So, you know, you're playing for 45 minutes to like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. I've played, we've done 3-hour gigs. You're playing that thing a lot and you're beating it up. And maybe if you have a nice like $2,000 Les Paul, you don't want to beat it up. But this is a $200 guitar. It's replaceable. So you can beat it up. And that's another reason why you might want an inexpensive budget guitar, is if you do a lot of recording. Maybe you don't always want to get your expensive guitar out. Maybe you don't want to beat up your expensive guitar. And that makes perfect sense, right? So another reason, like I do a lot of recording, and sometimes you want different guitar sounds, right? You want to record 2 guitars on a track, and you need something that sounds a little bit different, kind of pan it left and right. And you can do both tracks with the same guitar and just with different settings, or you can have a second guitar. And it can be good to have that second guitar. Plus, cheap guitars have kind of a, sometimes, not always, some of them sound good, but some of them have kind of a cheap sound. And I'll be honest with you, that cheap sound can be pretty good in a mix. right? You'd be surprised how many of the big name rock stars out there have used some pretty cheap guitars in their mix because it just sounds good. Cheap guitar, cheap amp, cheap pedals. Cheap stuff sometimes sounds good for what you're using it for, right? It can also be good to get a budget guitar if you want to try something different. Like, let's say you want to get into trying slide and you don't know if you want to run a slide up and down and, risk messing up your nice guitar. You can get a budget guitar to practice it. Give it a try. You can buy a budget guitar to start learning about working on guitars. Let's say you want to learn how to do your own setups, change pickups, change parts on it. You don't want to take a $800, $1,000, $1,200 guitar, like, a nice Fender Strat or, like I said, Gibson Les Paul or something like that, and fiddle around with it. So for something to learn on, $200 guitar, and then you can buy parts. And here's the thing. Let's say it turns out you suck at it. You're not out much. You didn't destroy a good instrument. You didn't mess up a good instrument. Let's say you get good at it. Then you end up with a guitar that you paid $200 for and paid for the parts, and you have a really nice guitar in the end, right? Because if you get good at doing those kinds of things, then you have something that's set up real nice and has good pickups and all that kind of stuff. And you learned what to do. You learned how to do that stuff. That's another reason to get a budget guitar. I'd encourage everybody, even if you have a nice guitar, get a cheap one. Get a cheap one, and worst come to worst, usually like with the Firefly, most of these Fireflies, people get them and they love them. Every now and then you get a real loser, right? And that even happens with name brand companies. Every now and then you get one that really just isn't right, and that gives you the chance to work on it. Especially if you're getting something as a project or to learn on, it's fine if it's a little messed up. That's kind of the whole point. You can practice working on frets. You can learn how to adjust the truss rod and the action and how to get it the way you want it. You want to learn how to do pickups. You're not out much. This is a $200 guitar. So if I fiddle around with it and try stuff, and this actually is the guitar that I try stuff on, you're not out much if you break it or if you make a mistake, right? So there are a lot of reasons to buy a budget guitar. A lot of good reasons. Some of them I just named. Or let's say you want to try something new. I have a couple of 7-string guitars that were both pretty cheap. And part of the point of that, let's say you're just getting into learning 7-string, 8-string, you want to try something new. You don't necessarily want to spend a bunch of money on an expensive like Schecter or something like that if you're not sure if you'll like it. Just like with learning the guitar, learning a new type of guitar playing might be good to go with a budget one, because then if you don't like it and the thing just sets in the corner, you're out $200. It's not like it's a big deal. And if you really don't like it and you want to get rid of it, you could probably get half of that back at a pawn shop or selling it to a friend or something. So why buy a budget guitar? Well, there's a lot of good reasons. I have 2 fairly inexpensive bass guitars too. And a big reason for that is because I didn't know how much I was going to be into playing the bass. Just like with learning the guitar, it's something new. So I got something inexpensive. It's also something I needed a bass at the time and I could afford a Squier. And that Squier is actually a pretty good bass. I like it a lot. So I never actually went and bought a better bass because I like the Squier. It's a good bass. But there's a lot of reasons for buying a budget guitar, and a lot of really good reasons. I tell you what, if you're looking for a guitar to learn how to do stuff on, like change pickups and do setups, another good option is buying a kit guitar. A lot of times you can get those for $100, $120. And the wonderful thing about that is you're putting it together from the ground up. So it completely takes away the mystique of taking something apart, because you put it together in the first place. That's another good way to learn on. Another reason I could say to buy a budget guitar is some of us, like me, like to collect guitars. I like having a lot of different kinds of guitars. I like having them because when I record, sometimes I want different sounds. It's also fun to collect them, fun to, I mean, God, just getting a guitar in the mail is awesome. And for what it costs to buy one brand name guitar, you could buy 5 or 6 budget ones and try out all kinds of different stuff. Now, I do have a couple of nice guitars that I really kind of spent some money on. But, you know, I can't afford to do that all the time. I think most of us can't. And if you want to try different instruments and get different kinds of stuff, it could be good to check out some of those budget guitars. If you want to know where to buy budget guitars, I did a list this year, where to get them. I'll put it right up here, where to buy budget guitars. And that'll give you a good idea of where to go and what kind of price range you're looking at. But in the meantime, check out some of these budget axes, man. Check them out, give them a try. I imagine at least one of the reasons I gave might apply to you, right? And it's good to have a couple guitars around, right? They always say, how many guitars do you need? One more. That's what I need, one more. It's always one more. You get that one, it's still one more. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to be doing some more cool stuff, so hit subscribe and yeah, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me I'm great. Tell me I suck. I don't care. Just tell me something. Talk to me, baby. All right? I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you guys. I really do. All right? Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.